There's so many veins to this topic today. What I've asked the panelists to do is go down the line and give us one topic or one aspect of this topic that we should all be considering as you're preparing in your business. So Ken, we'll have you go ahead and start us off.
Well, thank you, Chris. And this is such a great turnout. I'm having flashbacks to my Chamber of Commerce days some time ago, and we used to call these kinds of things the 7 and 7 Club. You know, your first meeting was at 7 a.m., your last one was at 7 p.m. But it's so good to reacquaint myself with so many of you. In a nutshell, 10,000 of us are turning 65 every day in the United States, and that's going to happen for the next 14 years. And I'd like to leave you with a couple of ideas. One, our parents may have thought of retirement as freedom from work. I would like all of us to think about disrupting that idea and thinking about our plus 65 years as freedom to work. Freedom to choose the kind of work we do, and freedom to exercise that option in a work environment that is open, accepting, accommodating, and as much as possible, free from age bias and age discrimination. Right now, somewhere in the neighborhood of 23% of the folks 65 plus are either working or want to be working. That's up quite a bit from the 16% just a couple of years ago. And as I mentioned, as 10,000 of us turn 65 every day, more and more folks are going to want to remain active, engaged in the workforce, either because they need to or because they want to and they have a special purpose to serve. So if I can leave you with one idea, it is disrupt your idea of retirement. Walk away from retirement. Walk away from the concept of retirement as our parents might have put it to you, and think about retirement as being freedom to work, not freedom from work.
Jerry?
Great. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Here we go. You know, I guess, and I can't say this with enough urgency, and I do think the title for today's talk is certainly appropriate. The financial profile of Iowa workers approaching and entering retirement is changing, and it's changing quickly, and it's changing dramatically. And when you talk about 10,000 Americans hitting 65 every day, many of those Americans are right here in the state of Iowa. Increasingly gone are the days of my wife's grandfather, who spent 45 years working at Schlitz Brewery, collected a pension, lived within his means, paid his mortgage off well before he retired, and he lived in a world where credit card limits stopped at $500. He is now being replaced by workers that are living longer. They're facing a longer time in retirement, and their personal savings are going to play a much bigger role than things like Social Security would have played for the generations before them. And probably most important, the profile of today's retiree increasingly brings with it higher fixed expenses and higher levels of spending. Thousands and soon to be hundreds of thousands of Americans will retire with mortgage debt, consumer debt, and even student loan debt. You know, I read a fascinating statistic recently. It indicated that there are nearly 160,000 Americans age 65 or older with student loan debt in this country today. And by the way, 3/4 of that debt is their own. That's not the debt to fund their children's education. So this issue that we think is coming, it's down the road, we're going to have to worry about it soon around student loan debt. It may visit us sooner than we think. So given that changing profile, the importance of making good financial decisions could never be more important than it is for this new generation of retirees. They're going to need different advice, different education, different tools, different products, and different services. And as much as it's exciting to see people working in retirement into the retirement years because they want to, I think the thing we have to protect, for many reasons that we're going to talk about, is we don't want too many of our retirees still working because they have to. And so, again, that profile is changing. It is truly a tsunami. There are solutions, but they're different than the solutions for my wife's grandfather. So I look forward to talking more about it this morning.
Lance?
Well, thank you. Something that I think about a lot in my teaching and some of the programming we do at Drake is the cultural changes that are based on generational change. And so about, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago, we had a group of executives in and we were talking to them about future workforce issues, and we got onto this topic of how today's workers born at that time, born in the mid-90s, they just don't know how to work with them. And so in fact, finally someone just said, we just prefer to hire baby boomers and we don't have to deal with that. You know, they kind of said it half serious, half kind of back and forth. But it's true, when you look at the city of Des Moines, the greater Des Moines metro, and you see how it's changed. I've kind of lived here off and on most of my life, and you look at how Des Moines has changed since the 80s. I mean, it is just like a new city. And that city's really been designed for the new way people live and think and relate to each other, etc. Now, would we find that same change inside our business organizations? Or would we sometimes find that business organization, like a corporation I visited a couple of years ago, where the first thing at the meeting is, with 4 different people, is each of the 4 people introduced themselves and then told me who they report to among the 4, because they wanted to make sure that everyone in that room knew who reported to who reported to who reported to who. And that's very comfortable for me to find that out. But I'm not sure our workers who within 5 years will have been born in the year 2000, that isn't going to be their experience in grade school and junior high and high school and college. They're not really thinking that same way structurally. And so I think that's the big challenge, is we have these valuable baby boomers. I'm in that group, so I want to be really valuable. But how are we going to make that transition? Because as we accommodate our work environment to keep these baby boomers in longer because we like the productivity and all those things, are we stifling the needed change kind of structurally inside our organizations, so this new group of creative, talented people that we all say we really want to bring them in, are we really ready for that? So I think that's an interesting question. Joe?
You guys have intense stares. Putting pressure to actually have something meaningful to say. Aureon HR, I'm here today to represent the lens of the small business owner. We serve small to mid-sized businesses throughout Iowa and the Midwest, and it's a little different lens than maybe from some of the larger corporations as we start thinking about this topic. A couple of things that I would start this conversation off with. First is, be careful about broad generalizations, even in the word choices that we're using today. We're talking about Silver Tsunami. We talk about silver, and we're associating silver with some preconceived idea about what people are thinking about their future just because of their hair color. Don't make, there's a lot of myths. What I think as a 51-year-old about what my future is may be very different than the person sitting right next to me. And so, don't make broad sweeping generalizations about age or hair color. And tsunami, even that, we think about tsunami and we think about it as devastation. As we've heard here today, you're going to hear a lot of statistics, and the statistics are what they are. We have less younger skilled workers moving into the market, more planning an exit out of the market. That's a fact. But we also have heard already that we're not going to have 10,000 people a day that are prepared to exit the market. And so it's the tsunami. It's not about devastation. It's about how we ride it and how we channel this tsunami to our own individual benefit. And what does that look like? And so just be careful about that. A couple of other things, the small business clients that we're working with, they're looking for practical application. When we hear things in the small business environment about labor force management and best practices typically means big practices, and it doesn't have to mean that. It can mean some practical things that you do for your business. And one of those things that, and I'll leave it with this, is our Silver Tsunami with our clients. A little over 30% of our small business clients that are for-profit with employee counts from 5 to 15, The silver hair is around the ownership table. And so this is a time not about looking at what do we do for perpetuating a career or perpetuating a skill set. It's about perpetuating the business. And hope is not a strategy. Awareness is not enough. It's about planning for the future of your business.
Jennifer?
Thanks, Chris. I think Joel and I need to have coffee. I'm going to build on some of the comments he made because I'm certainly in agreement with his approach to this. So you start out with crisis, right? And I entered the HR field 20 years ago, and we were absolutely talking about the retirement crisis 20 years ago. We love to sensationalize it. It's much more fun to talk about it and sensationalize it and imagine this huge crisis coming than it is to do the hard work and the time-consuming work to actually optimize the exit at an individual level. So I do believe we're sub-optimizing the exits. I believe it just takes some time and some honest conversation. It's a scary topic. The best case scenario I've had was a gentleman who came to me and said, I'm uncomfortable with this. I kind of want to retire in 5 years, but I'm afraid as soon as I do, my long-term incentives are going to get cut. They're going to stop developing me. They're going to stop giving me the cool projects. I'm going to go in that retirement mindset. And he said, what can we do to make this a win-win for the business and a win-win for me? And gosh, just laying that out on the table in a really rational approach, we went to lunch and we said, okay, what does this look like if the business wins, right? Because we have some interesting continuity. We have clients we want you to transition effectively. We want you to go on top. And what's it look like if you win? And we actually came up with a beautiful 5-year plan that's working. We didn't cut back long-term incentives. We didn't cut comp. We didn't marginalize this individual. We came up with a really rational plan that said, if we want a 5-year goal where this is the end game, what's it take on a year-by-year basis to get there? So much more fun to talk about it than do it, because every individual just needs to be approached, to your point, in an individual manner. That might work for some people, it won't work for other people, but if you meet people where they are and we take some of the fear out of the conversation, we've got a pretty good start. I also think succession planning helps. I'm a big believer. When we went into succession planning at Bankers Trust, I asked my executive team for 2 years. I said, can you give me 2 years where I don't have to put any names in boxes? I don't have to tell you Joe's the successor to Jim. I don't have to give me 2 years where we talk about our talent and explore it and really see what we can maximize out of it. And we're just now starting to put names in boxes, because the names in boxes preceding the conversation about what we want for people and what we're looking for and what we can see them actually achieve just flips the conversation in the wrong way. So I'm excited about some of the practices. I think we can do better, and I think getting the conversation out there like we're doing today is a really powerful first step.